Today, we're literally tearing down that old legacy moat and building a modern security architecture right from the ground up. So if you, or maybe your organization, have been relying on outdated security models, well, prepare to have your perspective totally shifted. We're going to explore the absolute state-of-the-art in access controls and network frameworks. Let's get into it. Okay, here is our roadmap for today. We'll start with the zero trust reality. Break down modern access control models, look at the future of authentication, explore firewalls in the cloud era, and finally, go beyond the traditional VPN. It's basically a complete journey, from a user's very first click all the way to the invisible network perimeter. Starting off with Section 1, the zero trust reality, and this completely new paradigm. Thanks to modern remote work in the cloud, the old days of having this hard, crunchy network perimeter with a soft, trusting interior, those days are totally over. I mean, consider legacy models like MAC for military classifications or DAC for user files. These are basically static moats. Once you crossed them, you were in, you were trusted. But in our modern zero trust reality, that passive moat is replaced by a highly trained VIP bouncer. And this bouncer doesn't just check your ID once and wave you through. No. They continuously evaluate your context to balance heavy-duty security with a completely seamless user experience. Moving right along to Section 2, Modern Access Control Models, focusing on risk-aware systems. So how do we actually implement this VIP bouncer level of access in the real world? Well, the industry standard for cloud environments and microservices today is ABAC, or Attribute-Based Access Control. Going back to that bouncer analogy for a second, it's not just about having a ticket to get in anymore. ABAC evaluates specific attributes continuously. The system is constantly asking questions like, hey, are you a manager? Are you using a corporate managed device? Is it between 9 and 5? It's literally the equivalent of the bouncer checking your ticket, verifying the exact time of day, and making sure you're wearing the right shoes before letting you anywhere near a highly sensitive resource. Then we have RBAC, or Relationship-Based Access Control. This is where permissions are dynamically derived from relationships. Think of it like being a member of Group X. And what's super fascinating here is that this specific model powers Google Zanzibar. That's the actual engine behind Google Drive and YouTube. Now, while standard role-based access control still absolutely exists, modern practice doesn't just rely on one single model anymore. We're using these relationship-based and policy-based engines to apply multiple rules simultaneously. It's dynamic, it's fast, and it's incredibly secure. Okay, looking at the 4 fundamental functions of access control, you can really see how drastically things have transformed. Identification, well, that's now handled by federated IDs like Okta or Azure AD. Authentication utilizes biometrics or FIDO2. Authorization is all about that real-time policy evaluation we just talked about, your ABCAC or RBAC. And finally, accountability is tracked by advanced SIMs and user behavior analytics, or UEBA. The absolutely crucial takeaway here is that these are no longer one-time checks. They are continuous, completely invisible processes evaluating your risk level at every single click. All right, Section 3, the future of authentication. We're talking passwordless tech and biometrics. Let's zoom in for a second on how we're finally, thankfully, moving away from easily compromised passwords. I mean, think about it. How did you log into your corporate email today? The traditional 3 factors, something you know, something you have, and something you are, they still exist, but they've evolved drastically. We're rapidly moving toward completely passwordless authentication, perfectly compliant with strict NIST 800-63B standards, using things like FIDO2 and WebAuthn. That invisible, seamless handshake letting you into your workflow, that's very likely FIDO2 at work. And when we use biometrics like Windows Hello or Face ID, modern systems are deploying some incredibly advanced anti-spoofing techniques. We're talking real-time liveness detection, 3D depth sensors, and multimodal checks that actually look at your face and listen to your voice at the exact same time. It's pretty wild stuff. Which leads us to a quick puzzle. If biometric systems are so advanced now, how do we actually grade them? What is the optimal metric for measuring the effectiveness of biometric-based controls? Take a second to think about that. How do we balance that high-end security against everyday, frictionless user convenience? The answer is the crossover error rate, or CER. And here's how it breaks down quickly. First, you have the false accept rate, or FRR. That measures security, basically how often the system accidentally lets an attacker in. Not good. Then you have the false reject rate, or FRR. That measures usability, how often it annoyingly locks you out of your own device. Also not great. The CER is simply the exact point where these 2 rates are totally equal. So, the crucial takeaway here is that a lower CER equals a better, more perfectly balanced system overall. Let's move to Section 4, Firewalls in the Cloud Era, taking us way beyond static filtering. So now that we know exactly who is at the door, let's look at how the door itself has evolved over the years. Before we get into the modern architecture, let's test your knowledge just one more time. Which type of firewall inspection keeps track of each network connection between internal and external systems? Think back. This was a massive, massive leap forward from those old legacy systems that just blindly evaluated individual packets in total isolation. Well, if you guessed Stateful Packet Inspection, or SPI, you hit the nail on the head. SPI is the foundational base for all modern firewalls because it actually tracks the ongoing state of active connections. But here's the thing. Today, SPI alone simply isn't enough. Modern firewalls have to combine SPI with Deep Packet Inspection, or DPI, and encrypted traffic analysis. They do this to identify specific apps and threats that are actively trying to hide deep inside TLS encrypted traffic. And because of these incredible new capabilities, the modern options we deployed today look vastly different. We've completely moved away from those obsolete single bastion hosts. Now we're using next-generation firewalls, or NGFWs, that are completely application-aware and have intrusion prevention built right in. We have Unified Threat Management, or UTM, for all-in-one SMB protection. And crucially, we have cloud firewalls, firewall as a service, alongside virtual firewalls. Things like VMware NSX that enables zero-trust micro-segmentation deep inside the network, far, far beyond the traditional perimeter. Now, with these incredibly powerful tools at our disposal, our best practices have naturally become a lot stricter. You absolutely must deny all inbound traffic by default. You need to enable TLS and SSL decryption carefully so you can actually inspect traffic. Block legacy protocols, I'm talking SMBv1 and Telnet, just block them immediately. Utilize geo-blocking, tap into threat intelligence feeds, update your firmware constantly, and please always harden your management interfaces with MFA. So the crucial point I want to make here is this. There is absolutely zero implicit trust inside the modern DMZ or network anymore. None. Moving to our final section, Section 5, beyond the traditional VPN and into zero trust access. So if the perimeter is basically gone and the firewall is highly segmented, how do remote workers access secure networks today? Well, when we talk about secure access, we really have to distinguish between two fundamental encryption modes. First, transport mode. This only encrypts the payload, leaving the IP header completely in the clear. Honestly, it's quite rare today, mostly just used for host-to-host connections on the exact same network. Tunnel mode, on the other hand, encrypts the entire packet and slaps a completely new IP header right on top of it. This is the absolute standard for site-to-site and remote access VPNs. It's what securely hides your data within an IP packet from anyone trying to eavesdrop on a public network. To actually authenticate those secure connections, we've historically relied on a few key protocols. Radius is still heavily used out there for VPNs and 802.1x Wi-Fi, while Diameter is what powers massive telecom and 5G core networks. Then there's TACAX+, which definitely remains the preferred choice for network device administration because it fully encrypts the entire payload. However, looking at modern trends, we are rapidly replacing those legacy Radius setups and strict Kerberos domain constraints. We're moving towards much more flexible, SAML-based single sign-on solutions for our remote workers. And that perfectly sets the stage for the true successor to the VPN, ZTNA, or Zero Trust Network Access. Now, while modern VPNs using WireGuard or IKv2 certainly still exist and have their place, ZTNA is without a doubt the definitive future. Why? Because it provides application-level access without exposing the underlying network at all. A broker sits in the middle and mediates every single request, continuously verifying both authentication and authorization. Whether you're doing this through Cloudflare tunnels, Zscaler, or a broader SASE architecture, ZTNA ensures that even if a user's credentials are completely compromised, an attacker doesn't just get the keys to your entire network kingdom. So I'm going to leave you with this final provocative thought. If your organization's VPN still relies on Radius with password-only authentication, are you truly secure in a zero-trust world? I highly recommend taking a hard look at your own corporate setup. What modern factors, ZTNA approaches, or microsegmented firewall architectures would you deploy instead to truly protect your data? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer today. And as always, keep learning.